The number everyone watches after a sugary drink is measuring the wrong thing. Put one hand over the soft part of your belly and picture the organs sitting several inches behind it. Fat can gather around those organs. It can collect inside the liver. It can settle inside muscle. It can do all three, while your bathroom scale gives you almost no useful warning. That hidden fat has its own address. It has its own chemistry. It has its own response to what you drink. And it has one trait that makes the usual weigh-in uniquely misleading. It can be the last change your scale reveals and the first change a scan finds. But 4 decisions separate a drink that quietly adds to the problem from a drink you can remove without turning life upside down. Before we finish, you will have those 4 decisions, the exact numbers behind them, and a simple way to make the change last. This is not a story about one sip becoming belly fat by bedtime. The evidence is more precise than that. It includes small randomized trials that used scans, controlled trials that separated added calories from exchanged calories, and larger reviews that pooled those trials. It also includes observational evidence across millions of people. Those forms of evidence answer different questions. The imaging trials show where fat went under controlled conditions. The reviews show how consistent a pattern looks across studies. None of them promises what will happen in one individual body. That limit matters. So does the pattern. The scale reports total mass. The body stores that mass by location. Picture a house with 1 meter on the front wall and 4 rooms behind it. The meter reports the total load. It cannot tell you which room is filling. One room is ordinary fat beneath the skin. Another is the liver. A third is muscle. The fourth is the visceral space around the organs. Sugary drinks matter because liquid energy can enter quickly. The liver can turn part of that sugar into fat, and the body may place some of the result in rooms the meter cannot identify. We are going to walk that path in order, from the glass to the gut, from the gut to the liver, and from the liver to the hidden rooms. The walk takes time because the mechanism lives along the route. Once you see the route, the 4 decisions at the end become practical instead of vague. The first pour. Start where the drink meets an ordinary day. It may arrive beside lunch, during a drive, or as the familiar bottle you open when the afternoon feels flat. Your body receives energy, but chewing never announces a meal. A small crossover trial made this difference visible. 7 men and 8 women received the same carbohydrate load, about 450 calories a day, as soda during one 4-week period and as jelly beans during another. They ate less later during the solid period, compensating for 118% of that load. During the drink period, they did not reduce later food at all. Their daily intake rose by roughly the full load, and weight increased only during the liquid period. This was a 15-person experiment, so it is a mechanism clue, not a universal forecast. The 450-calorie load was an experimental addition, not a target anyone should copy. Still, the practical picture is clear. The solid announced itself. The drink slipped through the front door. The first false reading. You may look at a can, count its calories, and plan to eat a little less later. The trouble is that intention and automatic compensation are not the same system. Hunger did not rise in that small trial, and physical activity did not change. The drink simply failed to trigger the same later reduction as the solid. This does not make liquid sugar magical. It makes it easy to add. The scale records total weight. The hidden rooms do not. That distinction is a relief, not an accusation. If you have tried to be careful and still found sweet drinks strangely easy to keep, the failure is not a defect in your character. A liquid can bypass some of the signals that normally make an energy load feel complete. You were using willpower against a weak receipt. Later, we will return to the exact difference between adding sugar and exchanging it. That difference decides whether the house receives a new load or merely a different package. The liver gate. After absorption, part of the drink reaches the liver, the organ that sorts, stores, releases, and rebuilds fuel. Fructose and sucrose matter here because the liver can use them as raw material for making fat. The technical name is hepatic de novo lipogenesis. It simply means new fat made in the liver. In a double-blind randomized trial, 94 healthy men drank beverages containing 80 grams a day of fructose, sucrose, or glucose for 7 weeks, or avoided sugar-sweetened drinks. The liver's baseline fat-making rate roughly doubled with fructose and sucrose compared with the control group, while the same amount of glucose did not produce that result. Total energy intake was similar across groups. 80 grams a day is roughly 2 large sugary drinks and was used to demonstrate harm. It is not a dose to try. The meter outside the house may barely twitch, while the liver workshop changes speed. The sugar distinction. Fructose is a simple sugar. Sucrose, ordinary table sugar, is built from fructose joined to glucose. Glucose travels widely through the body. Fructose is handled more heavily by the liver. That does not make fruit the villain in this story. These trials tested sweetened beverages at defined doses, often added to an existing diet. The package, the amount, and the addition all matter. One word on a label cannot carry the whole verdict. This is also where a common shortcut breaks. Sweetness is something your tongue detects. Addition is something your energy balance experiences. A drink can taste intensely sweet and replace another calorie source. Another can taste familiar and arrive on top of everything you were already eating. The tongue notices flavor. The liver receives the load. Hold that difference. It will become the hinge of the 4-part plan. 2 routines. Imagine 2 retired adults with the same breakfast, the same evening walk, and the same weekly groceries. Neither is a clinical case. They are a simple comparison to expose one variable. One person drinks a sugary cola with lunch. The other replaces that cola with a drink that adds no calories. On paper, their meals still look alike. In the body, one routine adds a liquid energy load every day, while the other removes it. If the first person tries to repair the difference by being extra careful at dinner, the small liquid versus solid trial suggests the body may not make that compensation automatically. The comparison does not prove an individual result. It makes the hidden variable easy to see. Same intention, different addition. That is the first chapter of the drink's journey. Next come 4 conditions that determine whether the load stays a brief delivery or becomes traffic headed toward the hidden rooms. The first chapter is complete. We have moved from the glass to the liver gate. 4 conditions now remain hidden inside the root. They are not 4 forbidden ingredients. They are 4 states that must line up. How the energy arrives, whether it is added, what the liver does with it, and whether the pattern repeats. Only the last of those explains why a small daily choice can matter more than an occasional celebration. The next room gives us the first scan. Equal calories, different place. The same property that makes a liquid load easy to overlook also makes the problem easier to interrupt. You do not need to identify every source of energy in your life before changing one repeated drink. You can remove the delivery route itself. That is the emotional reversal. The physics is more specific. When energy arrives in a form that is poorly compensated for, and the liver turns more of its sugar into fat, changing that beverage can alter the route without demanding a perfect diet. A 10-week randomized trial compared beverages providing 25% of daily energy as fructose or glucose in adults with overweight or obesity. Both groups gained a similar amount of weight, but visceral fat increased only in the fructose group. Liver fat making and several blood lipid measures also rose specifically with fructose. 25% of daily energy from a sweetened drink was an experimental overfeeding dose, far beyond dietary guidance, not a plan to imitate. The scale recorded a tie, the organs did not. That result closes the first big gap. Weight gain alone did not reveal where the change occurred. The sugar source helped decide the destination. Think back to the 4 rooms. The meter on the wall can register that the house is heavier. It cannot show that one delivery went toward the visceral room while another did not. This does not mean a person can ignore total calories. Both groups gained weight. It means the same weight change can hide different internal patterns. Location carries metabolic meaning because fat around organs and fat inside the liver are not the same as fat stored beneath the skin. The scale counts kilograms, the scan sees addresses. The long delivery. A short trial can reveal a mechanism. A longer trial shows whether the picture persists. In the longest beverage trial here that used detailed imaging, 47 adults with overweight were randomly assigned to 1 liter a day of regular cola, semi-skim milk, diet cola, or water for 6 months. Magnetic resonance methods measured liver and muscle fat, while imaging measured visceral fat and total fat mass. Compared with the other drinks, regular cola raised liver fat by 132 to 143%, muscle fat by 117 to 221%, and visceral fat by 24 to 31%. Yet total fat mass did not differ significantly among the 4 groups. 1 liter a day was the harm arm of an experiment, not a recommendation. The comparison drinks help interpret the result, but they do not turn any single drink into a medical treatment. Pause on the strange part. Total body fat did not separate the groups, but 3 hidden locations did. Liver, muscle, visceral space. The scale could look calm while the inner rooms were rearranging their load. This is the promised image made real by scans. The instrument was not broken. It was answering a different question. For anyone over 60, that distinction protects you from a painful near miss. You may remove a sugary drink, see little movement on the scale, and decide the effort failed. The imaging trial says the scale may be unable to report the change you care about. That is not permission to claim organ fat vanished without a scan. It is a reason not to use one crude number as the only judge of a useful habit. The meter reports weight. The hidden rooms do not. Use the scale for the job it can do. A repeated weight trend can still help you and your clinician understand total change. Just do not ask it to identify the room where fat sits. Home bathroom scales cannot reproduce the magnetic resonance measurements used in these trials. A waist measure also cannot directly show liver fat. The honest home signal is behavioral. Whether the recurring sugary drink is still entering the day. That is the variable you can see without pretending you own a scanner. The liver workshop. The 7-week trial showed a doubled baseline rate of new fat production with fructose and sucrose drinks. The 10-week trial showed visceral fat rising only with fructose, despite similar weight gain. The 6-month trial showed more fat in liver, muscle, and visceral tissue with regular cola, despite no significant difference in total fat mass between drink groups. Each study has limits. The populations were modest. Some doses were high. Most participants were younger than this channel's audience. I will not turn those trials into a guaranteed forecast for your body. But restraint should not erase what they jointly show. Liquid delivery can be poorly compensated for. The liver can increase fat making. Fat distribution can change without a dramatic scale signal. 3 links. 1 route. The scale measures mass, not destination. The myth of the single calorie. Calories remain real. If energy intake rises, body weight can rise. That is the strongest version of the standard view, and it is true. But it is incomplete when someone uses it to say that the form and placement of sugar never matter. The controlled evidence separates 2 different questions. What happens when sugar replaces equal energy already in the diet? What happens when a sugary drink is added on top? A meta-analysis of 51 controlled trials, including 75 comparisons and 2,059 participants, found that fructose-containing sugars increased liver fat in addition trials. The standardized effect was 1.72, and the evidence for sugary drinks in those addition trials was rated high certainty. In calorie-matched substitution trials, the same review found no effect on any liver outcome. Same sugar category, different energy context. Addition raised liver fat. Exchange did not. 5 words settle this part. The addition changes the result. That is the midpoint thesis. A sugary drink is most concerning here when it becomes extra energy that the rest of the day does not replace. Counting teaspoons while ignoring the added load is like inspecting the paint on a parcel while missing that another parcel entered the house. The label describes the contents. The body handles the delivery. So the root problem is not sweetness alone. It is a repeated liquid addition that is easy to miss and biologically available to the liver. That reframe removes two bad conclusions at once. You do not need to believe calories are irrelevant. You also do not need to pretend every calorie source behaves identically in appetite, processing, or destination. The scale reports the sum, the route determines the rooms. The four conditions. First, the energy arrives as a drink, which may trigger weak compensation later. Second, it is added to the usual diet rather than exchanged for something else. Third, fructose or sucrose gives the liver material that can raise its own fat-making rate under the tested conditions. Fourth, repetition keeps the delivery route open long enough for the internal pattern to matter. The fourth condition deserves the longest look. One drink is an event. A default is a system. A default returns at lunch, at the petrol station, at the family table, and during the tired hour when decisions narrow. You are not fighting one bottle. You are encountering the same cue in several rooms of your day. That is qualitatively different from an occasional choice. It is not more of the same. It is a route that stays open. This also explains why an extreme promise is unnecessary. The controlled review did not show that sugar-swapped calorie for calorie damaged every liver marker. The clearest harm appeared when sugary drinks added excess energy. So the first target is not purity. It is the repeated addition. That narrower target is easier to observe, easier to replace, and more faithful to the evidence. Before the reveal, lock in your prediction below. No changing your answer after. The prediction is simple. Which of those four conditions matters most for a change you can actually keep? Liquid form, addition, liver processing, or repetition? There is no shame in choosing the wrong one. The trials answer biology under controlled conditions. Your week decides whether the solution survives ordinary life. I once read beverage research as if the preferred replacement and the strength of evidence were the same question. Water felt like the obvious answer, so I treated it as the best supported answer in every comparison. The pooled trials forced me to separate preference from proof. That correction made the advice more honest. It did not make water undesirable. It made confidence specific. That is a disclosure about how I interpret evidence, not clinical proof of what you should drink. A personal judgment cannot outrank a randomized comparison. The paper decides the claim. The person decides whether the claim fits a life. Compress the route once. Liquid can evade compensation. Addition changes the energy context. Fructose and sucrose can raise liver fat making. Repetition keeps the route open. No single line proves every outcome in every person. Together, they explain why the bathroom scale can miss a meaningful internal difference. The meter records the load. The hidden rooms do not. The scale measures mass, not destination. Now 3 promises are due. You need exact numbers rather than fuzzy encouragement. You need the 4 harmless-looking failure points that can reopen the route. And you need the name of the 4-part method that turns this evidence into a durable swap. The advice everyone hears. You have probably sat in a clinic or watched a health program where the whole answer became, eat less and move more. That advice is not wrong. It is incomplete when the drink is not counted as a meal and the scale is treated as the only report card. Before I give you the method, keep the key distinction in view. Across 51 controlled trials, added sugar-sweetened drinks raised liver fat with high certainty, while calorie-matched substitution did not change liver markers. This is not evidence of doctors hiding a simple cure. It is an honest field using a bad shorthand. Clinics have minutes. Public messages reward short rules. Scales are cheap, familiar, and easy to repeat. Imaging is not. Those incentives compress a complicated route into one visible number. The problem is the trade-off, not a malicious motive. You are the one paying for that loss of resolution, so you deserve a better instrument for the decision. The wider evidence. An umbrella review gathered 47 meta-analyses of observational research covering 55,269 people. 79% of the analyses linked greater sugary drink intake with higher risks of adverse health outcomes. Associations with fatty liver reached the second highest evidence class, called highly suggestive, rather than the highest class. That is broad consistency, not proof that a particular drink caused a particular disease in one person. Notice the restraint built into that grade. The authors did not call every association convincing. Neither should we. The observational review shows reach. The controlled trials show mechanism and comparison. The imaging studies show location. Different tools, different jobs. Now, the lasting swap. Call it SWAP, 4 letters, 4 decisions. Each decision carries a number, because vague advice disappears when the old cue returns. S means C, 1 recurring addition for 7 days. W means withdraw 1 recurring sugary drink by replacing it, not by hoping hunger will repair it later. A means anchor that replacement to the same cue for at least 6 months. P means protect the new default after the formal effort ends. The 4 harmless-looking failure points sit inside those letters. The small bottle you never log. The meal reward that adds the calories back. The weekend exception that becomes 3 days. The temporary challenge that ends without a permanent default. None makes you weak. Each simply reopens the route. S means C, 1 addition for 7 days. This is the observation component. Use 1 ordinary week to notice the exact moment a sugar-sweetened drink arrives on top of food you would have eaten anyway. 7 days is not a treatment duration, and it does not promise a change in liver fat. It is a practical window borrowed from the minimum duration in the controlled review so that weekdays and a weekend both appear. Do not estimate from memory at the end. Mark the drink when it happens. The variable you are looking for is addition. The 51 trial review found higher liver fat in addition designs, but no liver effect when sugars were exchanged calorie for calorie. What that means practically is simple. A drink added beside lunch is a different experiment from a drink replacing another source of energy. The first failure point is the unlogged small bottle. Size can distract from frequency. The minimum effective observation is 1 recurring drink across 1 complete week. Your job is not to judge it. Your job is to see its address in the day. If 7 days feels fussy, use a lower rung. Put a mark on a paper calendar only when the recurring drink appears. No calorie arithmetic. No perfect food diary. If writing is difficult, place 7 coins in a cup and move 1 each day you meet the cue. The tool is not medical. It is a memory aid. If you manage diabetes, fluid restriction, kidney disease, or medication tied to meal intake, do not use a video to redesign your whole eating pattern. Keep the observation step, but ask your doctor before a large dietary change. The goal is to expose 1 addition, not to disturb a treatment plan. W means withdraw 1 recurring sugary drink by substitution. This is the root component. Remove 1 reliable delivery, rather than declaring war on every sweet taste. The evidence gives an honest ceiling on what weight alone may show. A meta-analysis of 6 randomized trials with 1,729 participants found that replacing an existing sugary drink with an artificially sweetened or unsweetened drink lowered BMI by 0.31 kilograms per square meter while the interventions lasted. That is roughly half a kilogram to 1 kilogram, not a dramatic transformation. The scale may show only a modest change. The route can still matter. The second failure point is the reward meal that restores the removed energy. The liquid versus solid trial warns that compensation is not automatic in the helpful direction. Removal works as removal only if you do not deliberately add the load somewhere else. The minimum effective withdrawal is 1 recurring sugary drink replaced at the same occasion. 1 route closed cleanly. The choice of replacement needs the same honesty. A network meta-analysis pooled 17 randomized trials and 1,733 adults with overweight or obesity, many at risk for or living with diabetes. Replacing sugary drinks with low or no calorie sweetened beverages was associated with about 1.06 kilograms less body weight, 0.32 lower BMI, 0.68% less body fat, and lower liver fat. The certainty was moderate. In that same analysis, swapping sugary drinks for water showed no measurable effect on the studied outcomes. But that comparison rested on only 3 trials and 429 people, and the certainty was low. That does not prove water fails. It means the water evidence was too thin for a confident effect estimate. Preference can favor water. Evidence strength still has to be reported accurately. If a no-calorie sweetened drink helps you remove the recurring sugary one, the controlled evidence supports that bridge more directly. If water is easy for you, it remains a practical, unsweetened choice. For someone who dislikes both water and low-calorie sweeteners, the ladder can be gentler. Start by shrinking the frequency of the one recurring drink, while keeping the replacement occasion fixed. Use chilled sparkling water if it fits your health needs, or another unsweetened drink you already tolerate. I am not claiming a special organ fat effect for a particular flavor. The supported action is substitution away from the sugary drink. The minimum effective swap is the one you repeat. A perfect replacement that lasts 3 days is fragile. An acceptable one that becomes automatic has a chance to close the route. The scale may whisper. The habit still changed. There is no evidence here for stopping a medicine, changing a diabetes dose, or ignoring symptoms because a beverage improved. Those decisions belong with your doctor. If a replacement changes your carbohydrate intake substantially, it is worth asking how that fits your existing plan. The swap is a food environment decision. It is not a substitute for clinical care. A means anchor the replacement for at least 6 months. This is the duration component. The 6-trial review required substitution studies lasting 6 months or longer. Its average BMI difference of 0.31 remained only while the interventions lasted. That timeframe does not guarantee a personal result, and it does not mean nothing happens before 6 months. It tells us where the longer-term evidence begins. Attach the replacement to the old cue. Same lunch, same chair, same cold glass, different drink. The third failure point is the weekend exception that expands into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 3 days can become nearly half a week without feeling like a pattern. If weekends are the hard part, anchor only the first drink there before changing anything else. The minimum effective anchor is the same cue, met by the same replacement, often enough that you stop renegotiating it. Repetition once kept the delivery door open. Now repetition closes it. The mechanism, in one breath. Remove the liquid addition, and the liver receives less raw material to route. That sentence is deliberately modest. It does not promise that one swap erases visceral fat. It tells you which variable the swap directly controls. The studies use different drinks, populations, durations, and outcomes. Their shared direction is clearest when a sugary beverage is an added source of energy, and a consistent replacement removes it. If 6 months feels too large, do not negotiate 6 months every morning. Keep a 7-day calendar and renew it. The long duration belongs to the evidence. The short check belongs to your routine. One is the destination. The other is the next stepping stone. P means protect the default after the program ends. This is the durability component. In the long-term substitution review, one study ran an intervention for 1 year and followed participants for 2 more years. BMI drifted back toward baseline after the intervention stopped. That result does not prove everyone regains weight. It reveals a common design problem. A temporary program can create a temporary environment. When the environment disappears, the former cue is waiting. The fourth failure point is the finish line itself. A 30-day challenge sounds harmless because it creates urgency. But if day 31 restores the old default, the route reopens. Protect the replacement by deciding what happens after travel, celebration, illness, or a disrupted week. The minimum effective protection is a return rule. Miss the swap once and resume at the next familiar cue. Do not wait for Monday. Do not turn one exception into a verdict. This is where the method is more fragile than its name. Swap sounds like one clean exchange. Real life is messier. A spouse brings home the old bottle. A restaurant has limited choices. A difficult week makes comfort more valuable than precision. Those are not moral failures. They are cue collisions. The named concept worth keeping is intervention fade. It means the benefit weakens when the support or behavior that created it ends. The long-term review saw BMI move back toward baseline after the intervention stopped. So the protection step is not perfection. It is continuity with a return rule. Keep one preferred replacement available. Decide which occasion matters most. Resume after a miss. The allowance is generous, but it is not the old pattern in disguise. Think of the return rule as a hinge, not a chain. It does not trap you in a flawless routine. It lets the door swing closed again after life pushes it open. That is how the fourth condition changes sides. Repetition once helped the drink return. Repetition can now help the replacement return. Now reset the expectation. This habit may have repeated for years. A small, durable substitution is more believable than a dramatic cleanse. Precision beats spectacle. The scale measures mass, not destination. That is why the bathroom scale is the wrong instrument for judging what sugary drinks may be doing to visceral fat. It can show weight. It cannot show liver fat, muscle fat, or the visceral depot. In the 6-month imaging trial, those hidden stores rose with regular cola, even though total fat mass did not differ between drink groups. In the 10-week trial, both groups gained similar weight, but visceral fat rose only with fructose. The meter recorded one story. The organs told another. Swap closes the gap in 4 moves. See one recurring addition for 7 days. Withdraw that one drink by replacing it. Anchor the replacement for at least 6 months, the point where the long-term trials begin. Protect the new default with a next Q return rule after any miss. C controls awareness of addition. Withdraw closes one liquid route. Anchor changes repetition. Protect reduces intervention fade. Those 4 decisions do not guarantee a scan result. They do give you control over the variable the evidence identifies most consistently, an added sugary drink that keeps returning. At the start, I promised 4 decisions separating a quiet addition from a lasting removal. You now have all 4. The house still has hidden rooms, but the delivery door is no longer invisible. Before we finish, a quick run through the essentials. The scale can miss location. Liquid sugar may be poorly compensated for. Fructose and sucrose drinks raised liver fat making in a controlled trial. Added sugary drinks raised liver fat across controlled trials, while calorie-matched exchange did not. The durable move is one repeated substitution, protected after the formal effort ends. For the curious, the exact papers are linked below. Read them with your evening tea. The full source list is in the description. Consider this a well-researched conversation between friends, and let your own doctor turn it into a plan. The story continues next video with the hidden breakfast habit that can reopen the same delivery route. If swap is the one change you are willing to test this week, write swap in the comments. Your answer tells me which practical obstacle deserves a full video next. Someone else reading may also realize they are not the only person who finds one familiar drink hard to replace. One route, one cue, one return rule. Start with the drink you meet most often.